Hi everyone, I'm Maya. The US presidential election is now only a few days away. More than ever, it's important that all eligible voters have all the information and resources necessary to cast a complete and educated ballot. With all the chaos and confusion in the world, it can be easy to tune politics out and convince yourself that your ballot doesn't really matter. It's even easier to direct all your focus to the presidential candidates. Something that's often overlooked during election season are the propositions up for voting. Naomi from Gala's Activist Club is going to help break down and explain everything related to propositions, so when you go to cast your vote, your ballot reflects your beliefs.
Hi, I'm Naomi Macy from the Gala Activists Club. You probably know about this little thing called the United States presidential election that's happening next Tuesday. But besides the presidential race, there are a lot of other issues on the ballot, and many of these affect all of us on a much more local level. Today I'm going to talk about propositions, what they are, why they're important, and the changes they could bring to California this November. According to the Initiative and Referendum Institute at USC, propositions are proposals to enact new laws or constitutional amendments, or repeal existing laws or constitutional amendments, that are placed on the ballot for approval or rejection by the electorate. Basically, propositions are changes to state laws that voters can decide on. Propositions are different for every state, so voters in California will have different propositions from voters in New York or Colorado. When people talk about the election, they tend to focus on the presidential race. However, propositions can have a big impact on the way laws work on a state and local level, so they're a great way to make your voice heard on the issues you think are important. Do you think schools need more funding? Want stricter privacy protections online? Think felons should be able to vote on parole? These are the kinds of issues that can be decided by propositions. There are 12 propositions on the ballot in California this November. If any of these sound interesting, think about doing some quick research to find out more about them. Prop 14 issues $5.5 billion in bonds, or funding, for state stem cell research institutes. Prop 15 changes the way commercial and industrial properties are taxed. Prop 16 repeals a previous proposition, Prop 209, that banned discrimination or preferential treatment based on race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in public employment, education, or contracting. Prop 17 gives convicted felons the right to vote while they are on parole. Prop 18 allows 17-year-olds who will be 18 by the next general election, the one in November, to vote in primaries and special elections. Prop 19 changes the way property and inheritance taxes work. Prop 20 makes changes to policies related to criminal sentencing charges, prison release, and DNA collection. Prop 21 expands local government's power to use rent control. Prop 22 classifies drivers for app-based services, like Uber and Lyft, as independent contractors instead of employees. Prop 23 requires a physician on-site at dialysis clinics and consent from the state for a clinic to close. Prop 24 expands the provisions of the California Consumer Privacy Act, or CCPA, and creates a new agency to enforce it. Prop 25 replaces cash bail with risk assessments for criminal suspects who are awaiting trial. As you can tell, there's a lot going on with propositions in California. That's why it's important to do research and find information from reliable sources. For example, Ballotpedia is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that tracks propositions and other political information across the country. Cal Matters is another organization that focuses specifically on Californian issues and has a series of quick YouTube videos explaining each of this year's propositions. You should also know that groups with vested interest, who have something to gain or lose from propositions passing or failing, often spend money on advertisements to convince people to vote a certain way. It's helpful to see what groups are spending money on what propositions, and you can check this information at sites like Cal Matters. For example, Uber and Lyft have been spending lots of money to promote Prop 22, so if you've seen any ads promoting it on YouTube or TV, chances are those companies had something to do with it. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned more about propositions and why they're an important part of the upcoming election.
Like we just saw, propositions are ridiculously important, and they rest in the hands of voters. Just like any other political issue, there are many sides and opinions to and on each proposition. Make sure to research the pros and cons of each one, who supports them, what it means for different communities, etc., etc. All of the unbiased resources Naomi mentioned will be linked in the description of this video, and they're a great place to start your research. Many organizations like the ACLU, Black Lives Matter, Students Deserve, and workers' unions release voting guides on how and why to vote for these props. Consider cross-examining those and seeing where you stand. If you aren't eligible to vote yet, that's okay. It's still worth your time to educate yourself on what these propositions mean and how they'll impact you and your communities if passed. Thank you so much, Naomi, for helping explain propositions to all of us. And to all those voting, thank you for using your voice.